The most selfish thing you can do in this world is help someone else. Why is it selfish? Because the gratification, the goodness that comes to you, the good feeling that I get from helping others, nothing's better than that. Not jewelry, not big house I have, not the cars, but it's the joy. That's where the joy is, in helping others. That's where the success is. Finally, I pray that you put your slippers way under the bed tonight, so that when you wake up in the morning, you have to get on your knees to reach them. And while you're down there, say thank you for grace. Thank you for mercy. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for wisdom. Thank you for parents. Thank you for love. Thank you for kindness. Thank you for humility. Thank you for peace. Thank you for prosperity. Say thank you in advance for what's already yours. That's how I live my life. That's why I am. One of the reasons why I am today. Say thank you in advance for what is already yours. True desire in the heart for anything good is God's proof to you, sent beforehand to indicate that it's yours already. I'll say it again. True desire in the heart, that itch that you have, whatever it is you want to do, that thing that you want to do to help others and to grow and to make money, that desire, that itch, that's God's proof to you, sent beforehand already to indicate that it's yours.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Let's Talk It Out podcast. It's me, Trey Busy. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. If you're not tuning in tonight, I thank you for listening back to it the next day or whenever you get a chance to listen back to it. So first and foremost, I would like to thank my previous guest, Kia, for coming on. Kia Dean came on last week. We had a great episode. She was very open, and we had a good dialogue, learned a lot about what's going on out there in the streets of Chicago from her. So before I go too much further, I would like to introduce my guest tonight. My guest tonight will be no other than Lorna Rose. Lorna, please come in and tell people a little bit about yourself.
Hi, thank you. Well, I'm coming in from Dallas right now, Dallas, Texas. I'm from New York originally, though, and I just moved here last summer after graduating from law school. I was going to law school in Boston.
Nice. So, Lorna, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on tonight. I would like to say, first and foremost, again, just the fact that you were able to come on tonight. You have a lot going on. You actually have an event that's going on right now, but
yes, but that's okay. Multitasking is the name of the game. So
I see. It sounds like you on the road right now. You hitting it hard down the street.
Oh yes, I I had to sneak out, and if I didn't physically leave, they would have asked me why I wasn't participating. So I had to actually sneak out and leave. But it's okay.
So I wanted to ask you. I know that you graduated from Syracuse.
Yes, absolutely. Go Orange.
You graduated and you were majoring in social work.
Yes, I graduated with my Bachelor of Science in Social Work.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you, what drew you to go to school to study that? Like, what are you passionate about when it comes to that kind of thing, social work?
What drove me to want to do social work, get my degree in social work, was actually the field of law that I wanted to practice. I grew up with two severe addicts, drug and alcohol addicts. Well, I really grew up with just one of them, my dad, because my mom lost custody of me when I was 2 and was actually never really a part of my life. So I knew when I was little, was in 5th grade, I was 11 years old, that that there had to be kids out there that had situations even worse than mine and circumstances even worse than mine. And I wanted to defend their rights. So I decided when I was 11, I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be what I now know as a guardian ad litem, or a court-appointed special attorney. And I wanted to get my degree in social work because I thought it would give me a good foundation for working with that population. I wanted to know how to work with those people and also be able to defend them in court. So I really just wanted to be a social worker with a law degree.
Well, the fact that you were able to accomplish both those things, a lot of people have a hard time focusing on school or having even a plan once they go to school, but sounds like something that you had planned for a very long time because of your childhood. And that's very commendable that you were able to stick to it and make it happen.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a struggle. It was tough. But as time went on, as life went on, and I had other experiences and exposure to other areas of family law that kind of drew me in. Specifically, I wanted to work with victims of domestic and sexual violence, as well as abused and neglected children and children who were implicated in those situations. So it ended up kind of just being a very holistic approach to being an advocate.
Yes, it does sound like that. So again, I'm glad that you were able to find a passion and work towards making that happen. A lot of people, because coming from how it sounds like you grew up, a lot of people become defeated mentally early on, and they never ever find a way out of that mindset of feeling like, feeling sorry for themselves, or not being able to help others. You took that passion, you bottled it up, and you used it to fill yourself into getting to where you are right now. So that's very, man, that's dude, a damn hero, it sounds like.
Oh, that's far from it. But I mean, I always say thank God. Thankfully, before my dad relapsed, he was clean. He was clean from the time I was born for about 9 years. So for the first 9 years of my life, my dad was clean. And I just thank God that during that time, my dad and my grandma instilled the importance of education on me, and they impressed the value of being educated, because I think that was what fueled me. That was what kept pushing me, was that I knew I was smart, and I knew I was destined for greater than what I saw happening around me. And it was because of those first 9 years of my life that I had like two very loving, healthy caregivers. So at least they knew what to do in those first 9 years. But a big part of that time, I went with my dad to a lot of AA meetings, Alcoholics Anonymous, and a big cornerstone of the Alcoholics Anonymous program is the Serenity Prayer. And for those who might be unfamiliar, it's, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I always knew that prayer. I grew up saying it with my dad, and I just really applied it to everything. I could not control what my dad was doing. I would come home from school when I was in 5th and 6th grade, and he wouldn't be home, and he might not come home for 3 days. I couldn't do anything about that, but I could get myself up, and I could go to school, and I could do my own homework, and I could make sure that my teachers didn't find out what was going on, or else they would have to, as mandated reporters, get child protective services involved. And I mean, there was a lot of I lived a lot of my younger life in survival mode, but thank God I had that foundation of being educated and smart to know how to get through those things. And that was really what fueled me, was knowing that that's what I was destined to achieve.
Well, I want to say the chat room is very, very, very uplifting towards you. They are very, man, it's everyone saying congratulations because of your degrees. They're saying she rocks.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Someone said, how does Trey Busy get such amazing guests? Because I'm pretty amazing. No, I'm kidding. They're saying what, I guess? They're saying inspiration. B. Lipshow
Thank
says
you.
she sounds very well grounded, though. All she's come through. Good for her for having the tenacity to push on for destiny. Someone said, "When's your book coming out?"
Oh my God. When I have time to write it, I just, I don't even eat half the day because I feel like guilty taking time off from the work that I'm doing to even make myself food. But trust me, I want to write. I want to put all this down on paper one day because it's not just me. You know what I mean? I'm not the only person that's ever come through and overcame adversity, and I'm not going to be the last person. And if there's anything I could say or put down on paper that can help or inspire or motivate someone else, I want to do it for sure.
You're definitely not the only person that's come through adversity at all.
Absolutely not.
The whole purpose of this podcast is to bring people together that battle, and they battle it every day. Some people battle it every day, internally or some externally. Some people just can't find an outlet for it. So, whole purpose of this is to let people know that everybody has stories, and some of them are more similar than you think. Some people have more in common than you think. I was 19, 20, 21 years old, and I went to AA meetings because I was court mandated to go. So I know all about the Serenity Prayer. I know all about alcohol. I know all about that. It's crazy to think that you at such a young age is just like we're exposed to that.
I mean, I'll tell you, when you say that, a lot of people are going through a lot of the same things, even though, you might not realize it. And I really learned that last month. So I'm not court mandated, but I actually started going to AA meetings myself in February last month because I was taking the bar exam, and I felt that my lifestyle was not leading me down the right path. And I was very, very concerned. And so I had to stop drinking entirely. And I went to an AA meeting, and I went to the wrong one. I walked into an all men's LGBT group, but I walked in late, and I felt like it would be even worse and even more awkward if I got up and walked out. So I just sat there and listened. And for the hour, I just listened, and all of these men, different ages, different races, different sexual orientations, from me, things that I would not have in common with, all said something about their path and their journey through recovery and through their struggle with alcoholism that had me sitting there thinking, oh my God, same. Like, oh my God, that resonates with me so much. I know exactly what he's talking about. And that was when it hit me. I've been strong, and I've been tough, and I've overcome so much, but I think that I've relied on my education and my intelligence to maybe mask a lot more of what I might have been dealing with or should have been dealing with and addressing and confronting, which is I'm a genetic product of two addicts. And I'm half Native American, which is a people that are genetically predisposed to alcoholism. So I have like 3 strikes against me. And it didn't occur to me, because I went to those meetings as a little girl, what I saw and what I was exposed to, that wasn't me. Like, I wasn't an alcoholic. That was my picture of alcoholism was not anything I would apply to myself. And it really wasn't until I set foot in that room for myself that I realized I haven't maybe been dealing with my is in the best way that I should have for many years. So that's been an incredible transformation for me. It's been a complete lifestyle change. So that's a big thing with mental health, is I think that people try really hard to mask what they're going through, because not even that they don't want anyone else to find out because they're ashamed, but if they don't want to be a burden to the people around them. You feel like nobody can understand what you're going through, so you can't talk to anyone about it. Your friends are going to think that you're weird, or that, you just need to suck it up, or that you just need to go out and have another drink. And treating mental health issues and treating psychological issues with substances, even prescribed ones sometimes, is not the best way to do it, and is certainly not when you're self-prescribing something like alcohol. So that was a big eye-opener for me, as I've spent so many years saying, oh my God, I just need a drink, that I might have been putting myself in a worse situation. Who knows where I could be if I wasn't trying to self-treat that way. So that's something that I've been learning a lot the last couple months, about how to handle my mental health issues in a much healthier, productive way.
Well, like you said, you never know what anybody is going through, and you did so, like when you was telling the story about people saying things you agree with. It doesn't matter, the color of someone, where they're from, where they're raised, or anything about it. It's just we all have the same kind of brain. Our brains work the same way. We have anxiety, we have needs, we have wants, we have addictions. Every brain works the exact same way. So before I go too far into that, Courtney says, "Wow, her story is so powerful. So happy she was able to overcome it."
Thank you, Courtney.
CB fan says she is extremely brave and gifted, a wonderful speaker.
Thank you.
So he also asks, he wants to know, he says, how's your dad doing now?
Well, when I was 15, and just for context, I'm 31 now. When I was 15, my dad overdosed on heroin, and he was in a coma for a couple weeks. He ended up sustaining a traumatic brain injury. It's like a specific level of brain injury that New York State identifies as a TBI. And he now lives in a nursing home near Buffalo, New York. And he's still just as much an Italian asshole as he always was. So he's doing all right, considering.
Yeah, I know some of those guys, man, they do get a little. Well, I'm kind of the same way. They're really blunt. They really just say exactly what comes to their mind. There's no filter at all.
Yeah, nope, that's him. Definitely no filter. And, I'm not talking to him. I haven't spoken with him since my law school graduation, because he said something to me the day of my graduation when we were out to lunch that was extremely inappropriate and just wrong. I've talked a little bit about this on Twitter because it hurt me so much, but he's at that age now where he's always asking me, when am I going to give him real grandkids? Because apparently my dog Otto's not a real grandkid. He is to me, but it's fine. And my answer is always, do you have grandkids money? Because I have law school debt. So that's not even on the table. But he just kept bugging me. And I just, just as a joke, I told him that I was going to get a donor, and I had picked somebody out already. And he said, who? So I pull up a picture of me and Trey Songz that I have that's like a few years old. And I'm like, this guy, Dad, he doesn't know who he is, right? Like, this guy, this is going to be my donor. And he says to me, why can't you just have a Caucasian kid? And I looked at him and I'm like, well, you didn't. Like, I'm darker than your shadow. Like, I'm darker than your shadow. Like, Dad, and you didn't have a white kid. I cannot give you one. What the hell? And that was the final straw for me. I've always known he's super old school Italian. His excuse is that he dated a black woman for 8 years and he hung out with all of her brothers, so he knows how they are. That's his excuse for being racist. But just that comment to me, my own father trying to whitewash me is like, okay, the fact that we share DNA does not entitle you to a relationship with me anymore. So that's been that. I haven't spoken to him since then. So he's still alive as far as I know.
So if you were wondering, CB fan, that's how her father's doing. No, I'm kidding.
That's it. He's still an asshole.
Yeah, I worked with a guy, man. He was an older guy. He was about maybe 64. He was a carpenter, man. You wouldn't think that dude was 64. God, he moves, but he was a. We want to talk about assholes. He'd be like, somebody be like button up their coat or something, like, you're a fucking pussy for being cold, just out of nowhere. Just like, what the fuck? Why would you say that to him? You know, like
It's some people just, I mean, they just really, they just get off on, they need something to talk about. They just want to hear themselves talk, and negativity is the easiest thing. I heard someone said in my meeting, I was in a meeting last night, a quote that she said, only there's someone out there who believes that love is the only thing that exists in this world. Everything is either an act of love or a call for love. So it kind of goes along with that whole, when somebody, someone slaps slaps you in the face, turn your other cheek for them, is they're not intending to hurt you. They're trying to call out for love and to pray for those people and to forgive them for, their transgressions, because it's not your place to judge or condemn. But I've done enough of trying, I think, to forgive my dad and look past his transgressions. That comment was just a little too much for me.
For me being an African American man, I have zero tolerance for racism. So if someone
Same.
shows any in my direction, it will not be taken kindly to. So, I mean, again, it is a little bit difficult because it's your father, but I understand completely.
No, it's not. It's not to me. I like I said, I don't believe DNA entitles anyone to any level of respect, any level of relationship, especially in my situation, because I've been taking care of myself since I was 9 years old. I don't owe him anything. And he, I don't owe him anything. I don't owe my mother anything. I call her my incubator. That's about all she did. Like, thank God she kept me alive for 9 months. But it's not difficult at all, because I don't have to tolerate somebody being in my life that is that awful and that ignorant and would say something like that. And so what if I do have a child that has a Black father? I'm never going to put my child in his hands. I'm never going to subject my child to that, ever. So it's not hard for me, because I know where my principles are, and I know where my morals are, and I know where I stand very firmly in them. And nobody, whether or not their name is on my birth certificate, is going to move me from that.
Amen to that. You a woman that stay for their word, say something, they stick to it. So, that's, man, like, you got me blown back. Like, I'm a little speechless. I mean, there's things I've known you for a good minute, but there's certain things you're saying and I had no idea about. So I'm a little taken back myself. What's going on, everyone in the chat room? Had a couple people jump in. They're running late. So it's another thing I wanted to ask you. About the whole court system thing. See, me personally, yeah. I get anxiety. I mean, when I go to court, I have to go to court, like, even for a traffic ticket. Like, it's just something about being in there, just immediately, just takes me back a little bit. It's like, damn, I mean, granted, have dealt with things in the past, like when I was a little bit of a troublemaker when I was younger. So, being on that side, I guess that settles in a little bit. But I want to know what it's like being on the other side. Like being like not necessarily like a part of the people that the people being prosecuted or people going through stuff. Like, say the being on the other side, being on the lawyer side. What is that like? I got to ask anybody. I've always wondered what that was like.
Well, I'm not licensed yet. So I've never really represented somebody in court, but I've of course been to court with the other lawyers that I work for. It's intimidating. It's intimidating because somebody's, the outcome of somebody's life is relying on you and on the job that you do. I remember way back when I was in undergrad and I was doing my internship at the It's called Vera House. It's the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency in Syracuse, New York. And one of the other advocates, she was going to be out of town when her client had to go to court for sentencing. So the case was already over, but they were sentencing the defendant. And the defendant was this man who had sexually abused his niece, who was 9 years old at the time. And the court case had been going on for about 2 years. It was finally over, and then it was just time for sentencing. And what they did in the family courts there, they allowed the reading of a victim impact statement. So the sentencing had already pretty much been decided because a victim impact statement is not, it's not evidence. So they don't take it into account during the course of the case, but they will allow the reading of it. The purpose of it is to give the victim of the case a voice, because in a criminal court, the victim is not called a victim, they're a witness. So she was the mom of this little girl was reading her impact statement, and the advocate just asked me, would you go with her? You just have to sit there. She's going to read her statement. She might want you to stand up next to her. I just don't want her to go alone. I'm like, of course I'll go, no problem. So we go, and they get ready, they call the case, and the judge says, we're here. I had to sign in as a Vera House advocate, and the judge says, we're here for the sentencing of so-and-so, but first we're going to hear the matter of the reading of a witness impact statement. Would the attorney for the defendant please come up to the bench, as well as Lorna Rose, the Vera House advocate for the witness. And I just I was like, wait a minute, what? Like, why am I going up there? So I approached the bench, as I was called to do, and the judge lets the defendant's attorney talk, and she said, this is a 9-year-old girl, children at their age are going through so many changes. And she was just saying all the reasons why she didn't think this statement should be read to the court. And as soon as she's done, the judge turns to me and says, and Miss Rose, your response. And I was shocked, because I'm not an attorney. It's illegal technically for a non-attorney to advocate for or represent a client in court. You can't do that. And I told the judge I didn't prepare anything. I wasn't expected to speak, but I just explained that there's a reason why the reading of a witness impact statement is so important, and part of it is the name. It's a witness impact statement. It's somebody who's just treated as a component of a trial, but really they are a victim, and they have to live with the consequences of what the defendant did every single day once the technical process is over with. And the criminal justice system puts so much emphasis on the crime and not so much on serving justice to the person who's suffered. And when I was done talking, the judge told me that he could tell I was going to be a very successful lawyer one day. So that was my first experience addressing a judge, addressing a court. And I was terrified. I mean, I think I hyperventilated on my way back home, because I just had so much adrenaline in me. But it is intimidating. Because again, the outcome of someone's life will depend on the job that you do for them. So I've always said I'm probably never going to be the type of lawyer that wears a suit every day and goes to court. I'm much more a behind the scenes, do contracts, fill out paperwork attorney, but we'll see where life takes me.
So I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't just us on the other side, because it's
no.
Court. It's something about the vibe, and the judge walks in there. He's in control of everything, even to the lawyer. He's in control of everything that's going on there. So it's not meant to be a fun place. Not at all. I saw a meme. This is completely off topic, but it was I wonder if judges be laying in bed at night, and be thinking damn, did I have to get that dude 64 years in jail? Thinking about what they. Oh, I'm sure they do. I don't know that any judge just goes home and sleeps peacefully at night after
a particularly difficult trial or one in which they had to give out a very long sentence. I have no idea what it's like to be a judge, but imagine being in their shoes. You are the ringleader of that circus. You do call the shots. I mean, that's a lot of responsibility. So
I think court would be a lot different if I
I've
was
never
a
been a
judge.
judge. I have no idea what it's like.
It'd be a lot different if I was a judge. I'm walking in there with the little glass of whiskey. I'm like, all right,
Oh,
what we about to talk? No,
yeah.
I'm kidding. So, B. Lipschultz, I want to catch up with the chat room. B. Lipschultz is my mom, by the way, if you were wondering, anybody.
Oh, hi, Mom.
She says, kudos for standing up to family bullying and not compromising. It's amazing she has solid standards and healthy boundaries. Brave for standing up to family bigotry and hatred. So she was commending you for your act early on about saying how you stood up to your dad for what he said to you.
Thank you.
CB Fan says, yeah, the only court to be on is a basketball court. I agree with that. That's it for me.
Word.
So I have a question for you from the chat room. Exo Vibe says, how do you deal with anxiety related to your job?
Well, now it's no longer by opening a bottle of wine. That definitely used to be it. I did about almost a year ago. I started therapy when I was in my last year of law school, and I did start on anti-anxiety medication. I was always scared to get on medication because of my parents. I was afraid that I would end up getting addicted to something, but my therapist and my psychiatrist were they were very flexible. They spent a lot of time talking with me and making sure that whatever they were going to prescribe me would be right for me. Now, and even before I stopped drinking altogether, one way that I deal with anxiety is I stop. I really do I stop and I say the Serenity Prayer. I have it tattooed on my back. It was how I opened my law school admission essays. When you start to get anxiety, that's usually a symptom of feeling out of control. Anxiousness means things are going on that are affecting us negatively, in that we're being affected by them because we're not controlling them. And kind of reining in that reflexive desire to want to be in control of whatever's going on by saying the Serenity Prayer to myself, reminding myself, is this something I can control, or is this something that only God can control? And it's, not even necessarily a religious thing, whatever. It's not a religious thing. It's a spiritual thing. It's a power thing. Whatever God would mean to you is just deciding and reminding yourself, okay, I can't change this, but I can change this. And just trying to keep that in check. Because that's really what anxiety is it's a manifestation of our desire to want to be in control of things that in the moment we cannot. So just reminding myself of that. I became a very religious person during the bar exam back in February. Every time, it was 3 days long. 3 hours of testing the first day, 6 hours of testing each day on the second and third days. And when I started to get frustrated and I started to, realize I was reading the same question over and over and I didn't even know what I was reading, I'd just stop and I'd say the Serenity Prayer. Said a lot of Serenity Prayers, a lot of Hail Marys, and a lot of Our Fathers until I felt relaxed, I felt calm, and I felt grounded. And then I just continued testing. That was what works for me is giving myself a mental check and sitting there and doing it until I feel like I can go back to what I was doing and resume it. There's no point in wasting 10 minutes of trying to get through work when I'm freaking out and stressing and I can feel my heart racing and I'm on the verge of breaking out in hives, which is something that happens to me when I get really anxious. I need to stop. If I have to stop for 5 minutes and refocus myself, that's a way better use of my time than spending 10 minutes trying to work through an anxiety attack when that's just not possible.
you really have the chat room. If you were to go run for president right now, everybody in the chat room saying they would vote for you.
Well, my first order of business would be to make the day after the Super Bowl a national holiday.
Hey, you know
So
what? Now you got me voting for you too. Now
vote for me.
I was
vote for me.
I put in the chat room. I said she's a damn good guest. I said maybe she should take my spot as the host. Laugh out loud.
No, you're great. You do you.
So
you do you.
She says I really like her good judgment and mental checks. Justin says a lot of time for me, I'd be saying, God, give me the sanity instead of serenity. Nothing changes, but you change focus for a moment.
That's right.
Brittany says you have an amazing story. Thank you. Justin wants you to come to Canada to take care of their leader. Go run Canada.
I thought they'd like that. I thought we liked Justin Trudeau, right? Trudeau.
Yeah, Trudeau. Yeah.
I thought he was good. Right? Maybe I don't know. I'm not Canadian.
Apparently not. He needs to get rid of him. So, yeah.
Y'all got legal weed though, and free healthcare. Trust me, you're 10 steps ahead of us.
At least 10, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to ask you. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Well, earlier last week actually, we talked about it on the phone. I just wanted to because you did go to Syracuse, and
yes.
I wanted to talk about the incident with Jim Boeheim. You said the Orange Nation was behind him for that. I can't imagine what someone goes through mentally, knowing that they took someone's life and it was a complete accident. But this person, you took this person from his family, but there was nothing you could have did to avoid it because of the weather and that turn on it. Like, yep. I was really just shocked that happened, honestly.
I mean, we all were. It was especially sad. It was especially sad for me because that was Valentine's Day, and I was at that time just about 2 weeks out from having stopped drinking. And one of the big things that played into me making the decision to stop drinking was I was a server at the time. Just because preparing for the bar exam, I just had a very unorthodox schedule. I was a server, and I was, driving home really late at night. I was definitely, enjoying drinks and stuff at work when I shouldn't have been. And there were so many times when I was very, very lucky to get home safely. You know what I mean? I was very lucky to get home safely. I was very lucky that nothing happened. I was living very, very irresponsibly in that regard. And so when that happened with Coach Boeheim doesn't drink. Hasn't had a drop of liquor in over 40 years. So watching that, it really shook me because he wasn't doing a single thing wrong, and that happened. And when I heard that news, I thought, like, that's something that should have happened to me. You know what I mean? Not that I wish it had happened, but it should have, given the way I was behaving. But yet it happens to somebody who was doing nothing wrong, but yet couldn't avoid it. And that really gave me such a reality check that you can't, when they say, every day you wake up is a blessing. Yeah, there were a lot of days throughout my life where I'd hear something like that and scoff and think no, it's not. Don't say that. Because there are days where people are waking up really, really, really wishing they were put out of their misery. So that's so patronizing to say every day is a blessing. But then you see something like that happen and you're like, yeah, actually every day is a blessing because anything can happen. That was really heartbreaking because Jim Boeheim is like a pillar of our community. Orange Nation, I mean, we grew up with him. So that was really rough to deal with.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Especially you saying that what you were dealing with, you were drinking and driving home. It's, uh, yeah, that's never a good idea. I mean, we see the commercials all the time. They have the little cheesy commercials, and you know, they had the one when
Yeah.
the person. One of the ones I really was irritated by was when the guy opens up the window and like a bunch of liquor falls out the car, like it's filled up with liquor, and the cop's sitting there like, "Have you been
Yep.
drinking, sir?" And he just looks completely just buzzed, just like out of his mind, gone.
Yep.
But regardless of cheesy commercials, like guys, we have way too much accessible these days to be drinking and driving. We have Uber, we have Lyft. I mean, we have all kind of things accessible to us. I mean, granted, you would pay a little bit more money, but you're not going to pay nowhere near the amount of money you would pay if you get a DUI.
Right.
You'll pay a hell of a lot more.
It's not worth it. It's not worth it, but also you could kill someone.
And you
like you can ruin somebody's life and someone's family that had no say in your decision to do something that irresponsible. They had no choice in the matter, and they still had to suffer the consequences of your bad decision making. That to me is the biggest thing. Like, this sounds awful, but if you drink and drive and get into an accident, you brought that on yourself. That was completely avoidable by not doing that. But if you drink and drive and you harm someone else or you take someone else's life, that's reprehensible. That to me is 1,000 times worse.
What would you get in court if you do that? If you get caught, like if you're drinking and driving, you run somebody over, what would they give you?
It depends on the state. Here in Texas, it's intoxicated manslaughter. It's manslaughter. It's manslaughter for sure. You will get manslaughter. It depends on the circumstances. It depends on some, certain variables and how each state defines it. But it's at least manslaughter if they die.
The good thing, chat room, about Lorna having the expertise she has, I can ask her things about mental health, but also I can ask her things about the law too, just in case I got some shit going on. No, I'm kidding. So I want to read a little bit of the chat room. Justin is like, man, he's terrible. Please get him out of here.
Oh my gosh.
CB fan was like, to see someone die in front of you never goes away, regardless of circumstances.
No.
Just says it resonates heavy. I'm lucky I never killed anyone back then. That story has me shook. He said, damn, you're speaking to my soul right now. We know a few people who killed themselves. Alcohol kills. The drunk or drug driver always lives. That's the crazy part. They always live.
Isn't time. It?
Every time.
Every time. Every time. And I mean, imagine though, you die, you don't have to live. You don't have to live with what you've done. I think it's a much worse fate to survive that and have to live every single day with what you've done. So it's the drunk driver always lives, and I think there's a reason for it.
Yeah, they always end up having to suffer for their consequences.
Mm-hmm.
So Lorna was very gracious enough to come on tonight and have this conversation with me. I told her I wouldn't keep her for a long time because she obviously has a lot going on. So I'm going to ask her, like, Lorna, do you have any last things you want to say to the chat room before you go? I know you got a lot going on.
Well, I snuck out of the event, so I'm not as in a rush as I thought I was going to be. If anyone has any other questions, I can stick around for a little bit.
Anywhere? If you're not going anywhere, I have questions.
No, I left. So,
okay, so I can do my part.
I'm all yours. I'm all yours.
I can do my part. Okay, well, here we go then. I was going to ask you a question I really wanted to ask you. It was like, was there ever a point in your life, like where we ask about anxiety, but was there ever a point where you felt like you was dealing with depression, like you just felt yourself just, being numb to things that you were caring about at a certain time, or just like simply just existing?
Yes. I was diagnosed with acute depression when I was 12. And I know I've dealt with it since then, but I didn't respond well to the medication that I was put on at the time. So I just wasn't medicated for it. But there were many times, especially during my middle school years, like 10, 11, 12 years old, that I would beg God to please not make me wake up the next day. I just, between my grandma being on her deathbed with lung cancer and my dad being so bad with, the drugs and alcohol, I really wanted to be put out of my misery. And every day that I woke up was just so frustrating to me, because it was like, what good is God if he's making me live through this? Why is he doing this to me? What did I do to deserve this? I went through a lot of that. I did go through some episodes when I was in junior high of self-mutilation. I was a cutter. And one time when I was a freshman in college, I tried to overdose on sleeping pills. So I really, really just I didn't want to live with the circumstances. I hated what was going on around me so much. I wanted no parts of it. But I survived for a reason, I suppose. And, there have been times in the last couple of years, for sure, that I've kind of slipped back into those feelings of kind of worthlessness and feeling void of any like zest for life. Or even though I was in law school and I was getting closer and closer to my degree, there were other things going on in my life that I couldn't enjoy what I was doing. I couldn't enjoy my process. And I don't know, I just kept going. Luckily, I was able to just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And even baby steps are steps. It doesn't matter if you slow down as long as you don't stop. And I did just keep going. And that's something that I found has really improved since I stopped drinking. I don't know if maybe alcohol has had a counter effect on my anti-anxiety medicine, and now that I'm a couple months clean of it, my medicine works a lot better. I don't know, but it's something that has, yes, I've been dealing with depression for a very long time, and it's something that has been recurring every once in a while.
Well, before I go to the chat room, I want to speak directly to you from my perspective. I thank God that you weren't able to be successfully take your own life when you attempted to, because if you were successful, you wouldn't be able to impact as many lives as you do today. You are impacting people in the chat room, and in the future, I'm pretty sure you're going to impact a lot more lives. Your purpose has not been fulfilled yet. That's why you're still here. It's not that you were unsuccessful. It's that God, you're a church-going religious woman. You understand that everyone goes on God's timing. If it's time for you to go, then you go. I have a couple people in the chat room that have made attempts on themselves. It's not your time to go. You still have a job to do on earth. You still have people to positively affect. You have your story to share with others. You are responsible for helping save these people's lives. Again, thank God that you cut back on the liquor, and that Miles Wells says grateful for you to be here. Like I said, your story is powerful, and I have no idea that you had this going on with you. Brittany says, yes, definitely impacted lives. Justice said, he said, this speaking to my story, he said, this is heavy. He said, I had my first suicide thoughts at 9. It's crazy. Thank you for pushing through and being able to share your story. CB fan says, dang, she is tougher than nails.
Well, thank you guys.
You are
I appreciate it.
You are definitely very, very, very strong mentally. And apparently you are very strong physically as well, for you to be able to survive that.
Yeah, seriously, because I'm not a big person. Right now, I'm 5'2" and 114 pounds. I was a very small person when I was a freshman in college. The amount of pills that I took, and I took them after a night of going out to the bars and drinking, I should be dead right now. And not to nitpick, but I am not a church-going woman. The last time I was in a church was when my grandma died in 2007. I don't go to church. But I believe in God. And it's because of things like that that I believe in God. My connection with God and my relationship with God is, I don't need to go. I don't need to go to a certain building on a certain day of the week. I don't need to read a certain book. I don't need to follow things that a bunch of old white men wrote 2,000 years ago in order to have a relationship with God. And God has shown himself in my life so many times. One of the most impactful times was the day my grandma died. And I said this in her eulogy. He came into our living room and said to her, it's time. Are you ready to go? Or no, I'm sure he said, you're ready to go now. Because my grandma had said for the 10 years that she survived with lung cancer, she had told various people who told me after the fact, that she knew she had to keep holding on for me. She had to hang on for me and make sure I was okay. And she was up. She was talking to the home health aide that we had that morning, and then she just fell asleep and didn't wake up. And that to me speaks volumes about the life that she lived, because only the truly touched by God get to go that peacefully, I think. So I think he just came right down and took her right up to heaven. And he made sure that this woman who was the entire world to me got to go as peacefully as possible. So you can't tell me God doesn't exist, with everything that I've seen and with everything that I've seen him do. So I don't actually go to church, but I know of the proof of God more than anybody, I think.
I'm gonna let you in on a little secret, Lorna. You ready to hear this?
Sure.
There's people in church that go to church every Sunday that have nowhere near close to the amount of faith that you have. That's a little secret for you. They go to church every Sunday.
I believe that. I believe that because you can tell, like, you can talk about God, you can talk about his power, you can talk about his purpose and his will, but if you're not living it, if you aren't truly feeling it, and if you haven't had any experiences where you can appreciate his presence, you don't know. And I'm not saying everybody needs to have, completely traumatic experiences in order to feel God. No, not at all. But I know that there are plenty of people that go to church every day because they're told to, or because they believe that they're supposed to, that don't truly appreciate what God means and what God represents.
So again, the chat room is just EJ4312 says, put that book out and keep it on the vision board. You need to put it on the vision board so you can focus in on that. Justin says, knowing we're not alone in this journey is beautiful. B. Lisser says, testimony helps to set the captives free, impactful, and sincere. Justin asked, do you go to meetings?
Yes, I do.
CB
I go to twice a week.
Twice a week she goes to meetings, Justin. CB Fan says, you go, girl, speaking truth. I mean, man, it's just, the chat room is in love with you. I never seen them talk this glowingly about me before, but, apparently not. I'm kidding.
No, you know what? Like, no bullshit, excuse my mouth. If any of you out there, if y'all have never been to an AA meeting, go to one. Find one. There's an app called Meeting Guide. Find a meeting near you and find an open one and just go. You don't have to sign in. You don't have to introduce yourself. You don't have to do anything. Just go and listen, because even if you don't have an alcohol problem, maybe you have some other kind of addiction problem, maybe you don't know that you have something that you might be dealing with. Even if none of those apply to you, you go and you listen to people share their testimony about what they've gone through and what they've experienced on their road to recovery, is one of the most inspiring, ways you can spend an hour of your time. And You don't have to stick around. You can leave if you want to. But even after I left that men's group, I just found my spirit and my soul to be so refreshed. I knew I had to keep going. So I'm honestly very glad. I'm very glad that I I had the I had the experiences that I did, and the change of heart that I did at the beginning of February that led me to this new lifestyle, because it's opened me up to entirely new ways of feeling and thinking and expressing myself. I highly recommend everyone sit in on an AA meeting, just to get a little bit of exposure to some more of this very inspirational, uplifting talk about the relationship with God and the road, to recovery from a type of struggle.
Or we could just bring you on once a week, every week, and we just listen to you talk, because you are very inspirational yourself. I'm just saying. Justin saying you need to run for president to save America. CB Fan says another great guest, Alec. She is special. The chat room was in love with you. Again, you were very, very. Oh man, I'm just like, man, I was taken back myself. There was some times where I want to talk, and I was like, no, you know what? She's man, she's killing it tonight.
Oh God, I talk a lot. You can talk.
No, I don't want to cut you off. A good interviewer never cuts off the person that they're having interviewing ever. So I just want to say, again, thank you for coming on tonight. We're at the 56-minute mark. I want to ask you if you have any closing remarks for the people. Anything you want to share with them.
Let's see. I read. Okay, a couple things. Here's one of my favorite things. Change is born from uncomfortable circumstances. If you're not uncomfortable, then you're not necessarily going to experience anything new. And I think that's especially true with those of us that have mental health issues. So much of our day in our life is spent in survival mode. So much of it we spend in fight or flight mode. We're just constantly trying to navigate from one thing to the next without being set off. And we're always playing defense. But if you can ever challenge yourself to be a little bit uncomfortable, you'd be amazed at the change that can result in you from it. So one of my good friends, she says, it's an Eleanor Roosevelt quote, do one thing every day that scares you. So make yourself uncomfortable and see how you can grow from that.
Amen to that. That's a great quote right there. Pressure does create diamonds. Putting yourself in uncomfortable situations does help you grow. So
that's right.
Everyone's saying, Brittany's saying she wants to go to a meetings. You just inspired her to go to meetings. Courtney says she's inspired. That's just the chat room. Like, I guess CB Fan said, I'm speechless. I'm not completely speechless. It's just when she was talking, I was like, oh, let me sit back a little bit, get a little comfortable, because this is gonna be a good one. So,
I'm glad it was.
You were.
I appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you actually being willing to come on and have this conversation with me. Definitely. In the chat room, appreciate it. And if you have nothing else to say, then we can go ahead and close in tonight. Again, I appreciate everybody for listening tonight live. We'll be back next Thursday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time to have this conversation again.
Oh, yeah. If y'all want to, feel free. I'm really curious. If some of you do go to a meeting and you've never been to one, I'd really love to know, how it is for you. Just of course, the one thing to remember is if you repeat anything that you hear, don't ever repeat anyone's name, because it is meant to be anonymous and a judgment-free zone. But I'm just really curious. So you can reach out to me. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. mighty like the mouse _LR. So mighty _LR. I'd love to hear it because I think it's life changing. And if this has inspired anyone to give it a try, I'd love to know how you feel about it.
Yeah, you could get with her on Instagram or on Twitter, like she says, mighty _LR. If not, then you get to me, and I'll make sure that she gets the word from you. So again, I want to thank
Absolutely.
I want to thank you all for listening tonight, and I look forward to having a conversation with you guys next week.
Thank you all so much. This was wonderful.
All right, talk to you guys later.